Business Unusual, separating economic facts from fiction.
Good evening. Welcome to Business Unusual. I am Mona Lisa Due, and we are talking safety and health at work with the National Social Security Authority. And I know that last week we spoke about a number of issues regarding the conference as well that is being held in Victoria Falls next week. And we did promise that we're going to dwell a bit more on the issues to do with violence and mental health in the workplace, which has recent statistics in recent days. And we thought that there was a very important conversation for us to have as well as we talk about health at work. My guest today is Shingirai Mogaliri, who is an Occupational Safety and Health Promotions Manager with NASA. Shingi, thank you so much for making time to chat with us.
Thank you, Mona Lisa. Good evening to our listeners.
So we are going to talk about a lot to do with the conference as well as the CEO forums and the golf tournament. But I would like just to pick up the conversation from where we left it off with Benjamin. As the NASA, I know that the issue to do with mental health. Let's start with mental health. Can we say it's a new phenomenon in the work, or it's something that was always there but never really spoken about?
Thank you, Mona Lisa. Mental wellness in the place of work is not a new thing. It's not a new phenomena at all. It has always been talked about, but maybe the issue is it has not been talked about enough. Mm-hmm. And now we are coming to a point where people are realizing that mental health for workers is very important.
Mm-hmm. So where do you stand as NASA regarding mental well-being? What are some of the steps? I know that when we we had this conversation as well during the COVID-19 pandemic, and NASA was very clear and say, you know what, this is what we recommend companies to do when it comes to safety, which we're also going to talk about as well in terms of the physical. You say this is exactly what you recommend companies to do. So when it comes to mental well-being, what is your stance as NASA?
Thank you so much. We advocate for, we advise all employers to ensure that they come up with wellness policies, and wellness includes various aspects like emotional well-being, physical and mental. So it's very important for them to ensure that they include the mental well-being, because when a worker has got is healthy mentally, then they can also perform well. You realize that most accidents occur because of human error, right. And sometimes it's because the mental capacity or the mental well-being of the person
and all that.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So it's very important to address issues to do with mental wellness.
How?
To begin with, there are issues of relationships and communication between the employee and their superior. Those relationships are very important because sometimes the superior may bully the employee, and that can really affect the way they operate. Mm-hmm. If they feel belittled, if they feel they are not being appreciated, if they feel they are being treated unfairly, that can affect their mental well-being, because they'll feel, if I'm not accepted here, it means there could be something wrong with me, and maybe I'm not doing well, and maybe I'm just not liked here. So we start right from there, from the basics, and also just the worker himself or herself getting to appreciate themselves and accept who they are, because it also has to do with issues of self-esteem and self-confidence. Are you confident with your work, your personality, and the kind of work you are doing? Are they in match with your skills and everything? So it starts right from there, and then ensuring that employers also come up with programs on mental health to assist their workers. That's very important. So in the wellness program, it's quite a broad program, which can include things like even the physical well-being. You realize that all the other aspects of wellness go back to the issue of mental wellness. If the mental if the person is healthy mentally, then it also affects them physically. They become healthy physically.
And they increases productivity in the work.
Yes, they do.
Okay. So let's talk about where the conference comes in here. I know that the conference is being held between the 3rd and the 7th of October. That is next week, which is also the National Safety and Health Week, right? That's concurrently. Tell us about the importance of people actually attending this conference and what you're hoping to achieve as NASA.
Thank you, Mona Lisa. Let me remind our audience that the conference will be held from the 3rd to the 7th of October. It will be actually the Safety and Health Week, where we'll have the 3-day conference, which starts on Monday, the 3rd, to Wednesday, the 5th of October. And we will have on the 5th, that's the Wednesday evening, we'll host a safety awards dinner to award those companies which had no accidents in the previous year, as we did an industrial performance assessment of January to December 2021. And then on Thursday, the 6th of October, we will host the CEOs Forum, and we're inviting all chief executive officers, general managers, managing directors, and other executives to attend this forum, because we believe that occupational safety and health, it thrives when there is a support from leadership, from those who make decisions as far as budgets are concerned. So it's very important for CEOs to understand their role as far as occupational safety and health is concerned. So we want them to attend the conference. Then to top it up, we have got a golf tournament, which actually starts on Thursday. While the CEOs Forum is running, we will have those who have attended the conference also participating in the golf tournament. It's a 2-day tournament from 6 October to the 7th on Friday, which will also end with a cocktail dinner to award those who have won, and also to ensure that we come up with some takeaways for our charity programs.
Right. So what are some of the, I know we've already highlighted issues to do with mental wellness. What are some of the crucial conversations that are going to be happening at the conference?
We're going to be talking about, we'll have conversations on the Wange Colliery Company, their experience on the Kamantama, which happened, Kamantama disaster, which occurred in 1972, where 426 men lost their lives. And we'll also have a topic around the impact of social media in creating a resilient and sustainable safety and health culture. And I've already talked about mental well-being, and we'll also talk about OSH management systems, as well as violence and harassment in the workplace.
We're going to get briefly into, soon we're going to get into the issue to do with violence and harassment in the workplace. This is Business Unusual. We are joined by Shingi Mugaviri, who is with the National Social Security Authority, and she's the Occupational Safety and Health Promotions Manager. And we're talking safety in the work, we're talking health in the work, as well as the conference hosted by NASA that has been directed specifically to raise awareness about the importance of making sure that employees are working in a safe environment. So you indicated that one of the topics that you're going to be talking about is to do with the Wange Colliery incident that happened in the 1970s. Why do you think it's important to reflect on such incidences that happened in the past?
Thank you, Mona Lisa. We learn from those experiences. We want to ask ourselves, why did it happen? You know, it's very important to interrogate and to say, why did this happen, and how can we prevent it from recurring? And it's important that now the colliery is coming to share their experience and what they've learned from it and what they've done now.
And what they could have done better then.
What they could have done better then, and what they can do now to ensure that such a disaster does not occur again. And it will be a learning process also for other CEOs, even if they are from different industrial sectors.
Well, some would argue that, you know, in as much as you can put all these measures in an organization, you can't really control how an employee uses them or how an employee then reacts to certain measures that have been put into place, and probably as a way of not taking the blame entirely as an organization. How would you respond to that? Okay,
I believe that every human being, when they go through some certain level of training, induction, they get to learn. Learning never ends. So it's important for organizations, employers, to ensure that they put training programs in place to change the attitudes of people and to assist in changing behavior as well. So any accident can be prevented as long as people's minds attitudes have been changed. So I believe
When
that
you say people, who are you referring to? The
to
employees?
the workers, yes, workers. It's very important for workers to go through training, and not just once, but training should be done every now and then. It should be every month at least, and then every day they should do safety talks to continue being reminded that it's important for them to remain safe, to go back home in one piece.
And last week, I know Benjamin would reiterate that it's actually a right that an employee has to work in a safe environment.
Yes, it is. In December 2021, our Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare launched the revised National Occupational Safety and Health Policy. And all this is spelled out in there, that it is the right of the worker to work in a safe and healthy, in a safe working environment, and also that it is the right of the worker to go through training during their working hours, not to be asked to come in the evenings or during weekends for training, but they should be training during working hours.
So we also made a call out last week on people to share their stories or any questions that they would have had in terms of injuries in the workplace, etc. And one of the most common questions that was coming up, Shingi, is to do with compensation. So in the event that one is in an unfortunate accident at work, I know last week we also spoke about people that have died in the workplace, and some people actually incur injuries, permanent injuries, just by work. So what is the compensation procedure?
Okay, thank you so much, Mona Lisa. When a worker gets injured, the employer is supposed to fill in a form and notify NASA immediately. They fill in a form and notify NASA. And then we request all employers to ensure that they contribute towards workers' compensation insurance fund, because this is where the money will come from to assist the workers when they get injured. This is really when we say occupational safety and health has failed, when an injury has occurred. So when OSH has failed, we then move to the workers' compensation insurance fund. And we, as NASA, we support the injured worker by ensuring that their medical bills are covered as long as it is work-related. And also, if a worker sustains an injury, a permanent disability, be it even temporary disability, we take them to our rehabilitation center. That's why we refer them to NASA. In Bulawayo, close to Mpilo there, that's where we have our rehab center. And then they are assisted to get back to as near normal as possible for them to be able to either go back to work or at least do some, have some skills which can help them to raise some income. So NASA supports an injured worker that way.
You highlighted that workplaces are actually supposed to pay a certain amount of money to NASA towards this compensation every month. I think on my payslip I see NASA deductions, right? So what then happens if when an employee then reaches out to NASA and they realize that their employer wasn't actually remitting these, or they were not deducting all of these towards that compensation?
Okay, thank you, Mona Lisa. The amount of money that reflects on your payslip as deducted, that one is for the National Pension Scheme, which you start getting when you turn 65.
Oh, so that's not the compensation?
That's not the compensation. The compensation is paid directly from the employer to NASA.
So I don't even see it on my payslip?
You don't see it on your payslip.
Okay.
You only see the National Pension Scheme amount, which will be deducted from your salary.
So how then do I actually know that my employer is actually paying towards compensation?
I think as a worker, you have a right to ask, and we encourage every organization to have in place an OSH, a safety and health committee, which has got representatives from workers and from management, so that they keep discussing all these issues and ensuring that they are complying, because it's a compliance issue. As NASA, as an authority, we also have to ensure that companies are complying. So we also urge safety committees to check on these things and ensure that their company is complying.
Okay, so what then happens? I think I'd asked this earlier. What then happens when an employee comes to you and then they realize that the employer wasn't actually paying towards the compensation fund?
The NASA then they discuss with the company, and then there is a penalty that should be paid by the organization if the organization has not been contributing to NASA, yet they are supposed to be contributing. They will still assist the worker, and then they will get the reimbursement from that from the company through the penalty. They will make the company pay a penalty.
Okay, so I think first thing tomorrow morning, I have a conversation to have with my boss just to make sure everything is in the clear. This is Business Unusual. I'm Mona Lisa Dube, and we have partnered with the National Social Authority to talk about safety and health at work. We'll take a quick break. Thereafter, we continue with the conversation. Stay with us.
NASA brings you the National Safety and Health Week from the 3rd to the 7th of October 2022 in the resort town of Victoria Falls. The theme this year is creating safe and healthy work environments through and beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. The schedule will cover the following: Safety and Health at Work Conference from the 3rd to the 5th of October at the Kingdom Hotel. Safety and Health Awards Dinner, also at the Kingdom Hotel. CEO's Breakfast Forum on the 6th of October at the Elephant Hills Hotel, and the NASA Golf Tournament on the 7th of October at the Elephant Hills Hotel. Join us as we discuss practical ideas that create a safe and healthy work environment. The registration fees are as follows: Safety and Health at Work Conference, 550,000 Zimbabwe dollars. Safety and Health Awards Dinner, 136,000 Zimbabwe dollars. And CEO's Breakfast Forum, 209,000 Zimbabwe dollars. To register, kindly contact Mrs. S. Mugaviri on 0772 163 934 or email mugaviris@nasa.org.zw. NASA, a lifelong promise.
Business Unusual with the National Social Security Authority. NASA, ours is a lifelong promise.
Welcome back to Business Unusual. I am Mona Lisa Dube, and this episode has been brought to you in partnership with NASA as we look at the safety and health at work. And we're also going to talk about the Safety at Work conference that is scheduled for the 3rd to the 7th of October in Victoria Falls, being hosted by NASA. My guest today is Shingirai Mugaviri, who is Occupational Safety and Health Promotions Manager with NASA. Now, Shingi, we've spoken about a number of things, and even before the break, we dwelled on a number of issues regarding the conference, regarding procedures when someone is injured at work, and one of the topics that I found very interesting on your list of topics that you gave us earlier is the issue to do with violence and harassment in the workplace. I know every time when you talk violence, people are talking like kurwapa basa. Is it what we're looking at here when we talk about violence?
Thank you, Mona Lisa. Let me define what violence and harassment is according to International Labour Organization, Convention 190 on Violence and Harassment.
Right.
The term violence and harassment in the world of work refers to a range of unacceptable behaviors and practices or threats thereof, whether a single occurrence or repeated, that aim at or result in or are likely to result in physical, psychological, sexual, or economic harm, and includes gender-based violence and harassment. Let me also just as well define gender-based violence and harassment. It means violence and harassment directed at persons because of their sex and gender, or affecting persons of a particular sex or gender disproportionately, and includes sexual harassment.
And statistics have shown that women are the most victims of gender-based violence and harassment in the workplace.
Yes, you are right, be it in the home setting or in the workplace setting.
Right. So when you say, you talk about unacceptable behaviors, can we talk about that? Because I think it's a very broad term when we say unacceptable behaviors. Of course, the sexual part of it is just a part of it. So what are these unacceptable behaviors? What threats? Like if your boss is constantly saying to you, any small mistake, I'll fire you or something like that, does that count?
Yes, Mona Lisa, that counts because it's harassment. And also, when a boss says to you, so and so is better than you, the way they comparing you with with another person, with a male person, they say this man is better, I prefer male people instead of ladies, and so on.
And they publicly say this.
Publicly saying that, it also affects you mentally as well. We go back to the issue of mental well-being. And there are also workplaces where some employers, they want to take advantage of the women and say, if you do this or that, then I'll give you a job.
Right.
This and that. So we are saying no to that.
But how do you draw a line between being harassed or this violence that you speak of and a superior that is actually maybe reprimanding a subordinate or trying to put some sort of order in something that was not done right?
Normally, when one is being harassed, they get affected psychologically or emotionally, rather. When someone says something that causes you to be emotionally hurt, and where you just feel, no, this is not the way that someone should talk to me. Even if you are a subordinate, someone should respect you. The superiors are supposed to speak respectfully to their
Because
subordinates.
it's a professional environment.
It's a professional environment. So even if they're giving you feedback where you have gone wrong, they are not supposed to speak to you as if you are
their child.
But they should speak to you like they're speaking to a colleague. Still with the relationships, each one knowing that this is my position and this one is position is this one. The subordinate will still be respecting the superior, and the superior also has to respect their subordinate. It's very important.
It's a mutual respect.
It's a mutual respect.
So in what forms do we come across violence and harassment in the workplace? I know we've also spoken about others already.
It happens in various forms. Sometimes it includes public and private spaces where there is a place of work. It can be, for example, people are working, constructing a building. They will be working outside, or constructing a railway line. They're working outside, but it is a place of work. It can be in places where the worker is paid, takes a rest break, or a meal, or a place that they change. They are changing facility, and harassment can take place there, or even violence can take place in such places. And during work-related trips, where sometimes one can travel with their boss or with someone, and then they realize, no, I'm not being treated fairly here, or in a training session where someone is just really supposed to focus on training, and then they end up like attacking someone during the training, and you can tell this is someone can tell that this is me being talked about. And also it can happen through communications, where some people send emails that belittle someone, and someone ends up feeling like they are not worth it, they can't do anything right. And it's very important when superiors are writing emails to their subordinates to keep that respect, and to ensure that they are speaking to them in a manner that they can just understand what is being communicated to them, and not for them to remain feeling belittled and feeling like they are not worth being at the workplace at all.
But I am sure, just as you give detail as to what really constitutes violence and harassment and give examples, I'm sure that every one of the employees that are listening have gone through one or even more of what you're talking about right now. So what is the recourse when you identify that, this is violence, this is harassment? What is the procedure? Because obviously someone is worrying to say, okay, if I bring this up, my job may be at risk.
Thank you, Mona Lisa. It's actually not even supposed to be that way. Workers are not supposed to be victimized for opening up. And this is why we have the Human Resources Department. They are supposed to have a platform where workers can go and talk to them about these issues. Grievance procedures should be in place in every organization, where someone can just go and say, this is what has happened to me and I'm feeling this way because of that. So it's very important. Every human resources department is supposed to have a grievance procedure, and workers are supposed to feel free to talk to them. And we also urge organizations to have in their human resources department at least someone who can conduct some counseling at some level, or at least to have a referral system when someone feels they have been really hurt and they need assistance as far as counseling is concerned. They should be able to be referred to someone, either a psychologist, a counselor, even externally, who can help them so that they can return to work feeling better.
Do you think that Zimbabwean corporates understand the importance of actually having psychologists and social workers in the workplace?
Well, we've come across a few who do work with psychologists and who refer their patients. So we're urging all employers to start doing that, because it's very important. Because remember we talked about mental well-being. When an organization has come up with a program, the program is not adequate if it doesn't have counseling programs as well, which can include a psychologist or a counselor.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so earlier on you spoke about the ILO convention when you were making reference to some of the definitions. Tell us a bit more about that and why it's relevant to speak about it in this context.
Thank you so much, Mona Lisa. The ILO Convention 190, which is on violence and harassment, is the first international treaty to recognize the right of everyone to a world of work free from violence and harassment, including gender-based violence and harassment. The convention was adopted in June 2019 by the International Labour Organization and came into force on the 25th of June 2021. Governments that ratify the Convention 190 will be required to put in place the necessary laws and policy measures to prevent and address violence and harassment in the world of work.
And as Zimbabwe, are we part of this?
We are still working on it.
What does that mean?
Only last week, the Tripartite Negotiating Forum, the TNF, resolved last week to ratify this convention. Okay. And the process has begun.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So when you say ILO, you say International Labour Organization, right?
Yes, International Labour Organization.
So I know that there is also a global campaign that is happening.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about that.
Yes. There is a global campaign which is happening, and ILO is at the helm of that. That's why, as NASA, during our conference, we've decided to have a symposium on violence and harassment in the workplace, where we'll have the tripartite represented, that is the employers, the workers, and government. They will be on the panel talking about violence and harassment in the workplace. So we'll have that on the second day of the conference, which is the 4th of October.
All right. So as we wrap up the conversation, let's remind our listeners about the Safety and Health at Work conference that is scheduled for next week. Is there still time to register? How can they be part of it? And how can they get hold of NASA if they need more information?
Thank you, Mona Lisa. Yes, there's still time for our delegates to register. We are inviting you to register. And the conference, as I said earlier, will run from 3 to 5 October with the CEO's Forum 6 October and Golf Tournament 6 and 7 October. And for you to register, please, you can email mogaviri@nasa.org.zw.
All right. And I know that there's going to be a lot of conversations that are going to be had. I mean, what we had here is just a tip of the iceberg. I mean, imagine the whole week talking about such important conversations and just alerting people on their rights. And, you know, I know sometimes we focus on bread and butter issues so much and we forget about the wellness and the well-being of the people that are supposed to be actually productive. So I think it's a very important conference. And like she said, do get in touch with her to find out more about how this is going to work. Thank you so much, Shingi Mugaviri. She's the Occupational Safety and Health Promotions Manager with NASA, whom we have partnered with this program to just give you more information about being safe and being healthy at the workplace and highlighting the importance of employers, of ensuring that, and also just enlightening you as an employee of your rights and how best you can go about it. We're still taking in your stories or any questions that you would like. We can still address them on this program. You can send send them to 0731 168 045. Shingi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mona Lisa. Thank you to our listeners.
And that's all the time we had this evening on Business Unusual. I am Mona Lisa Dube. Stay with us here on ZFM Stereo.
Business Unusual, separating economic facts from fiction.
NASA presents to you the 2 and 4 Bowl Charity Golf Tournament from the 6th to the 7th of October at the Elephant Hills Hotel. The fees for the tournament are as follows. 4 Bowl, $300 United States dollars. 2 Bowl, $200 United States dollars. Kindly note that the fees are both inclusive of green fees and lunch. The proceeds from the tournament will go towards various charities in each of NASA's 6 regions, which are Harare, Bulawayo, Mutare, Gweru, Mashingo, and Chinhoyi. To find out more information regarding this golf tournament, kindly contact Mrs. S. Mugaviri on 0772 163 934 or email mugaviris@nasa.org.zw. NASA, a lifelong promise.